The views expressed by guests on the Living Chronic Faith podcast are not necessarily the views of Living Chronic Faith or of the host. This podcast does not constitute or replace medical advice. Please consult with your physician before altering your healthcare plan. Welcome to the Living Chronic Faith podcast. I'm Allie, and I am so excited to introduce our guests to you today. These are just amazing women of God, and they are behind the scenes making Living Chronic Faith possible. So today I have with me the members of our newly formed board of directors, Alicia Sims, Dorothea Thatch, and Stephanie Fields. Welcome, ladies, and thank you for being here today.
You.
Yeah. Thank you.
So this is a group of women that is just so phenomenal. They have so many gifts and talents, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I'd like for them just to tell us just a little bit about themselves and how their lives have been impacted by chronic illness. So let's start with Alicia. Tell us a little bit about your connection to chronic illness or chronic conditions.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having us on here, me on here. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Alicia Sims, and my connection with chronic illness is a type of migraine. Well, there are a couple, but the first is a type of migraine that has symptoms that are similar to having a stroke. And they can come out of anywhere. They can be affected by smell. They can be affected by weather. They have the exact same symptoms as a stroke would. So I'll lose feeling in parts of my body. I will have an intense headache, sensitivity to light. I can have blurry vision. And if I don't take the medicine that's been prescribed to me to take as soon as it starts hitting, then I'll have to go to a hospital and go through the exact same protocol that a person with a stroke would have to, which is CAT scans and MRIs and all of those things. So I'm spending pretty much 24 hours in a hospital if I don't catch it at first. And when I initially started having these migraines, I didn't even know what they were. So of course you can imagine having this type of effect. It started probably in my early 20s. So when that started happening in early 20s and I knew what strokes were, I was thinking, oh my God, my life is over. What did I do?
Right.
You know, and so to find out that this is about a migraine, it affects your life because you do have to be careful about making sure you get enough sleep and your diet is right. And when weather, which you can't control, there are these external factors that you can't control that will affect your body in a way that you didn't ask for, but they come as a result of the special package that you were made in. So then that causes me to have to be proactive and understand myself and ask questions and be informative about these things, and then be communicable to other people about things that may trigger or affect it around me.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the major ones. And I think when we think about chronic illness as well, we think about major things that are out there, but a chronic illness is asthma. A chronic illness can be an allergy. And so I have also both of those things. So just being informative of your body and intuitive to what's going on is always a plus and necessary for each passing day.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And you're absolutely right. There needs to be more awareness that there are so many chronic illnesses and in all shapes and sizes and different forms that people sometimes do not consider and take into account, but they have as much impact, as another diagnosis that you may have heard of or that you may be aware of as touch. And so thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Dorothea, tell us about your connection to chronic illness.
So I have a friend, a really good friend who has chronic illness, and I've, lived with her through that. My sister was diagnosed with brain cancer, I think about 7 years ago. And as she no longer has cancer, but as a result of the treatments for cancer, she now has ataxia, some hearing loss, some vision loss. So that is my connection with chronic illness. I also, my day job is a vocational rehabilitation counselor. So I work with people with chronic illness.
So you're a supporter in a number of ways. And I'm so grateful for all of the experience and the background that you bring to this community. You're a constant resource. So thank you. And thank you for sharing your story. Steph, how about you?
Similar to Dorothea, I am on the support side, and similar to her, I met a good friend at church and was just so busy and everything going until I was like, I didn't even know that she was living with any type of chronic illness because the girl was doing it, has been doing it. And I have a sister who was diagnosed with lupus, and it was when she was in her first set of diagnoses, every time she would go, they'd find something else and they'd tell her something else and they would tell her something else. And then you got this, and then, oh, well, now you taking this medicine. Well, now you can't take that medicine because it's going to counteract with that medicine. And when I got to talking with Allison and learning more about it and start going to the meetings, I was like, man, I know people that should be here because my sister, we don't live in the same city. So I'm not there in a physical way to help support all the time. And I know it's like, and when we do talk, I know there are cases where my other sisters that do live there, they don't understand.
Mhm.
And they still expect her to do and to function like she always did back when she was 20 years old before she got the diagnosis. And just even the other day, situation with my parents, because even though she's the one with the lupus and all the chronic conditions, she's the primary caretaker for our elderly parents who are in their 90s. So she goes, she takes them to the hospital visits. She does that even with her and having to be on her cane. She's in the primary caretaker for them. And my sister was like, well, you still got to do such and such and such. And it's like, okay, but you don't understand. It was hard for her to just get up. You jumped up out of bed, but today she had to decide, can I get up, how I get up, or had to press through her own because she still had to take care of our parents and get them to their doctor's appointments and fight with my mom because she don't want to wear this outfit today and she wore it last time, and all that still has to go on with that, and making sure with like Alicia mentioned about diet and making sure they're not eating too much pork and too much, but all she wants is barbecue sandwich. That's all mama wants. If she have her way, but all those that she has to deal with taking care of them and then trying to take care of her own self. And then again, nobody really understanding because we don't have any of those symptoms of what she's going through. And when she has to make it to her doctor's appointments and on her own and or when she gets something like, oh, it's something, this is a new spot. She'll tell us sometimes this is a new spot. This hadn't done. I was yesterday, this happened. But we don't understand that because we haven't gone through it, but trying to be there and support. So I've really learned a lot from being at the meetings and talking to Allison and then being at the meetings and hearing it's one of the main things, like one day at a time.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, don't beat yourself up about it, and trying to get that message out to her. Like I say, because we don't see each other that often. And then I had another friend who actually recently passed away, who was dealing with chronic condition. And unfortunately, she was like in denial about things. So I couldn't actually get her to join in because she was still trying to be the 20-year-old and move and do and couldn't do until she would run herself ragged. And so that's my connection, because I see definitely the benefit of, from the support, because for me to learn how to support, and sometimes it's like, just be here, don't say nothing, but learning all those different ways that I can be a support to somebody who's dealing with a chronic illness.
That's so powerful. And I appreciate you sharing that. Because one of the things that we do is we support caregivers and supporters of people who are living with chronic conditions. But I would also add that one of the things that has benefited the entire community is hearing your perspective, because as people who are living with the diagnosis, we know what it looks like for us. We don't always know what it looks like for that person who we're addressing or who we're trying to explain to. We don't understand why you're asking the questions that you're asking, because to us, this is our day-to-day. We deal with this all the time. Why don't you understand? Or why would you ask that question? And so just to hear how certain things have made you feel, in communicating with her, gives us an insight into how to better improve our relationships and our communication with our loved ones. So everybody, kind of benefits from the conversation, and it's been absolutely amazing. So thank you for bringing that out. When I asked each of you to consider being on the board, I already knew that you were going to make your decision very prayerfully. But you've always been here. Every single one of you is a day one supporter of Living Chronic Faith. And I can't tell you how much that means to me. But I want you to talk just a little bit about why you continue to make that choice to invest and to be part of this community. Whoever wants to start.
I'll start. I keep telling you this, Allison. I believe that this organization is saving lives. I believe that it is so important that, people have community. Because if you're out here with ataxia or with the migraines that are, have stroke symptoms or, whatever it is, you feel alone. It's possible that you could feel alone in that. So to know that, even if you don't have the same condition that I do, I'm not the only one that has the emotions that are attached to having those conditions. And I think that's so important.
I agree. Absolutely. Community is key. Who else?
Sure. And I would definitely say, well, first thing, anytime Allison asks me to do something, yes, whatever, what you need, because I know everything that this sister touches is golden, and I want to be a part of that. So she's writing something, she's doing this, she's speaking, it's gold. So I want to be a part of that. So I surround myself with people that are good people, and you're one of them. So definitely, that's number one reason. The other reason, as you say, that there's so much education that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. We have these, this is, this month we're looking at this sickle cell month. We have, but really getting to the heart of it. And as my sister was saying, that the people who live with it, like I said, my sister, like the other day, like I said, she was brought to tears because of the fact that my other sister didn't understand and was still trying to put more stuff on her. That when we talked, I was like, okay, so I just pray with, okay, it's going to be okay. Just, you can only do what you can do. Don't worry about what she's saying, that now I have a granddaughter, and thank you, at least for bringing that out, that she has asthma. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be working with and helping to support in a way I can, and making sure that my daughter gets her medicine and to the doctor's appointments, because more and more it's one thing for me, I guess, it's coming closer to home. When you don't have that, mm-hmm. It's not around you. Now there are more people that I can identify. I can actually point to somebody that's close to me that, oh, they have this condition, they have this condition. I need to actually be more aware of it, out of sight, out of mind. But now it's coming close to home. It was kind of like with COVID. People didn't think COVID was real until it hit home. Mm-hmm. Now it's home, and I can actually speak of somebody that I know that is going through. I have that experience now. So now I can say, yeah, this is a space that I need to be in, and I need to be more educated, and I need to help as many people as I can.
And that's such an empowered perspective too, that it's not, oh, this is happening in my family, let me go bury my head in the sand. But it's now, let me go arm myself with this information so that I can do what I do, which is take care of the people that I love. And especially with something like asthma, where it's not something that affects that person every day necessarily, and so still being diligent and being on top of those things that are necessary to care for them in the best way possible. That's awesome. Thank you.
I agree certainly with Dorothea and Stephanie on the support. It is essential to have that community feeling, because you do start to feel alone, especially when you hear words like rare or mm-hmm. 1 in 100 people get this or whatever, those type of terminologies that are put on things. You do start to feel isolated. And so you're thinking, okay, do I need to count 100 people to find the second person who has this in my area? And in addition, the education to it. So now you're on this adventurous search to find more and more about yourself and your body. I think, and absolutely the support that you see you, Allison, walking in, and the initiatives that you make and the things that you're able to accomplish on a daily basis with your diagnosis is just a natural inspiration to anyone, whether you have a chronic illness or not, to be supportive behind that. And I agree, everything you touch is absolutely golden. And then I would also add the stigma that is continuously changed as a result of the things that you do. You allow platforms for people who have things who wouldn't necessarily think that they are an expert in something that they've been gifted with. So it changes the entire stigma about receiving a diagnosis when you allow for someone to talk from a testimonial space about their life. And the motivation and inspiration that comes as a result of allowing that space is mind-blowing and world-changing throughout the things that you do. So as a person who has been diagnosed with a chronic illness, but also as a caregiver, you create a safe space for that and a platform to be able to talk and change the entire stigma around chronic illness, with it being something that most people can't see. There are chronic illnesses that you can tell a person has, but most of them are hidden. And so this isn't like a broken leg or a broken nose or something that has a bandage on it. These are things that are automatically hidden from the natural eye. And so you allow for that vulnerability of exposing it in an educational and motivating way.
To God be the glory for that. I tell you, this has been a part of my healing journey as well. This has been a safe space for me, and I feel like that is really what has informed, the programming and all the things that we do. Is I look at it from, what do I need, and because of you all, I'm in a better position to help facilitate that for all the people that will come to this community. And it's just the grace of God, that creates this and that allows this to happen, and that he sends these people alongside us to pour into the people that come and that listen to all the education and all the things. So I'm super grateful for that. And it's so humbling even to be a part of something that has the potential to, to bless someone and to inspire and encourage them. And so I love that. And I appreciate you all for what you bring to the table, which let's talk about that for just a moment. Because each of you has so many gifts and talents, and I am going to brag a little bit. So Alicia is an actress and an artist and an administrative guru. I mean, just all of the things. And she absolutely brings that to the table with LCF every time she steps into a room. She commands attention. She is anointed to do what she does. And we are so appreciative for all the value that she adds to this space. Dorothea knows a lot of stuff, y'all. She is a resource. She is she is like a card catalog at the library back in the day. And if she doesn't know it, she knows how to find out. And she's very generous with the information and with that research. And it's nothing for her to say, oh, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. I'll call you when I have it. And I'm like, thank you, Jesus, because it just simplifies the process. She's also a media specialist and gifted in all things media. And she brings those talents also so generously to this community. She is our producer for the podcast, and she does a lot of other things behind the scenes, whether it's social media or just all the media platforms. And her support is invaluable. And then there's Steph, who is a creative par excellence. She is the director for all of our virtual productions. She is also, I want to say this in a way that sounds as loving as it is. Steph is a brainiac. And she is highly intelligent. She's an educator and she brings all those things. She is someone who will look at a document and say, okay, sis, let me get my red pen out and help you with this. But that's the joy of this board is I always feel like my back is covered. I always feel like there are checks and balances in place to make sure that I'm on the right page, that I'm doing things in the way that's going to honor and glorify God. And I need that so much. And you all give me that, and you give me that accountability. And it absolutely blesses my life. And it has made Living Chronic Faith so much better, so much more effective, and has opened up so many opportunities for us even to think about doing things that we weren't there. We were not in a position to do those things, but having you all here doing what you're doing and bringing your experience in ministry, bringing your gifts of leadership and all those things has absolutely changed the game. So I'm going to ask two questions. You can choose which one you want to answer, or you can answer both. The first question is, what is your favorite part about helping to lead this ministry? Second question is, tell me about an aha moment or a significant moment that you've had during one of our programs. So we'll start with Alicia, because you look like you're ready to answer.
Make sure I change my face from now on. I would probably say that to answer both of them, the greatest part about the working with LCF is working with you ladies and the wealth of knowledge and experience you bring to the table, and then watching our guests and those who benefit in the community receive what they receive. I can't think of a program that we have hosted or been a part of that someone didn't walk away with like this shocked expression or this shocked feeling of, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know this was there. I didn't know I could feel this way about myself. It literally transforms lives as they experience programs and experiences that you present. I think that my aha moments, there are many of them, but I never fail to learn something. I can remember back in probably my best experience was the first year in the conference that you had. The way it was put together in a virtual setting, and it was in the turn of course, us appreciating virtual thanks to COVID, but nevertheless, you allowed a space for doctors and professionals to come in and teach us about self-care, to teach us about chronic illnesses, about best practices on what to do with it. And it ran so smoothly all through the comfort of our homes. And there were people on there who just received, and you could see it physically, you could see it emotionally, you could feel it. And those things, those connections continue to be a part of the journey, even in 2023, years later, that they are still staking holds to it. And for some, your magic is like the Pied Piper of like once you touch someone's life, they never go away. They just keep coming and coming and coming. And so it's a joy just to be a part of the community. Those are my aha moments. I never leave without learning something.
Wow. And that definitely is one of our goals and one of our core values. But to hear you say, I never knew I could feel this way about myself. That is so rewarding, just as a concept, that people would walk away with that feeling. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Who's ready to go next? I don't want to guess faces anymore.
I'll go next. I'm going to say my answers are the same for both questions. My favorite thing and my aha moments are that I'm learning so much about, I would say, my sister and my job. Like, it helps me to be patient, more patient, I got a ways to go. I know I do. And if she watches it, she gonna be like, but I feel like I'll pause, because I am the way that I am. I'll pause and be like, okay, calm down. You don't understand what she's going through or what they are going through. So let them explain it to you. Or even if they can't articulate it, just slow down and, ask more questions. So those are my aha moments and my favorite thing about being a part of this organization.
That is so powerful. Because as you and her Steph have said, there are things, if you don't experience life this way, that you never really can understand and have a hard time relating to, just because you don't live there, right? But for you to even say, I don't understand, is a win, because that does mean that you're going to approach the situation differently. And that has the potential to just change everything for the better. And so that is such a powerful statement. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Stephanie.
Well, I already sort of kind of answered the reason why I work with LCF is because any opportunity I can get to work with Allison Hampton, win. Because of the person that you are, the creative that you are, the compassionate person that you are, I could be coming to you and going through stuff, and you got everything you going on, but you're going to still take the time to make sure that Stephanie's okay. That is who you are. So anytime I'm in your space, whatever you're doing, it's good, it's wonderful, it's great. So selfishly, one of the great things about being a part of LCF is getting to work with you. Just being totally honest, because I met you in the creative art space. Didn't even know you were the director of the production that I was in, and when I got to meet you, it was just butter. It's been butter working with you. So that's as Alicia, anything, whatever you bring excellence to every whatever it is you're doing. If you're praying, you bring excellence to it. If you're speaking, you bring excellence. If you're writing, whatever it is, you bring excellence. And the educator in me, I'm drawn to that as well. An aha for me being an educator was, and I don't even remember the name of it, but the young lady on there who first you strong armed her into being the speaker. But I learned about the skin condition, because when I would just look at somebody, I would always assume that was some kind of albino condition, or it was somebody had burned. Most of the time I would just put in a capacity of somebody's burned. Didn't know. So that whole one was like, I was like, oh, really? Oh, yeah. Ooh. Because of my lack of education in that. So that one, I was just glued like this, like, oh my God, so that one was a big aha for me to learn. Like I said, I still don't know the clinical name for it, but that one was one that just really, because like I said, I would look at the skin and I would just make an assumption they had been in a fire, they had been burned. I'm praying for them because it was burned, but didn't know that there's a whole nother just skin condition that was that. So that was one for me that was a big aha that had me glued to the screen the whole time she was talking. Also, the fact that she said she'd never done this before, and you strong armed her, and she handled it like a champ.
So I don't know if I remember that part. She did a phenomenal job. That was Jillian Simmons, and she lives with vitiligo. And she did a fantastic job sharing her story and really sharing inspiration from her experience. She was a speaker at our most recent conference this past December, and she definitely is a supporter of this community. And I would say all of our speakers have brought something to the table that have, encouraged or educated me, on something that, even though I know her journey, I know, a little bit about vitiligo, I did the same thing. I was just like, then what happened? and it was so amazing because, sometimes as kids, we don't necessarily get the education on, when we're looking at someone, how to process what we're seeing. or even how to ask those questions that we need to know. And so there has been so much opportunity for us to hear from people who are different from us. I say all the time, you could line up 30 different people who are living with chronic, conditions, and their experience will all be different. Even if they all have the exact same diagnosis, their experience will be different. And so there's always something to learn, always a new way to look at things, and that's always a tool in your arsenal. So that's amazing. Thank you for kind of giving a little window into what we do. You all are women of prayer. And I can say for a fact that you all have prayed me through some moments. And I know that you are praying for this community. Will you share just a little bit about what your prayer is for Living Chronic Faith as a community, as individual members, programming? What is your prayer for Living Chronic Faith at this point?
My prayer for Living Chronic Faith is that we will continue to be an influence to the community, and that we will even grow into an international market that sets a standard for the stigma, education, and just all around inclusion of those with chronic illness in everyday life. I believe there are employment opportunities, definitely creative arts opportunities. There are so many arenas that still have not tapped into the asset that someone with a chronic illness can have on the community at large and the world at large, and movements that are taking place. And I believe that Living Chronic Faith has the power to connect those living with chronic illnesses with those communities who have no idea what they're missing.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Who else?
My prayer is that, like Alicia said, that the community grows, by leaps and bounds, and that also, I believe it's a network. I believe it's way more than what we see now. I believe that there's, different facets of what it could look like. So we have, it's larger than what we see
Agreed.
in many areas.
Absolutely agree. Thank you, Dorothea. Stephanie, how about you?
It's the reach knows no bounds. Alicia said it very, very nicely. I'm just summing up. Just the reach knows no bounds. Wherever God wants it to go, it's going to reach, it's going to touch, till, he's going to open up the windows of heaven. We won't have room enough to receive
Amen.
what he has for Living Chronic Faith. So I just pray that we just stay obedient and in line with that, and just the reach goes beyond anything that we can even think or imagine, according to as his word already says.
Yeah.
And specifically, we talk about those that live with the chronic, but like on the other side, those that are the supporters, because I've had moments when, okay, I don't know what to do. That I appreciate the fact that you bring us into this community and help us. Like, so when we don't know what to do, we have support as well, because that's a lonely place when I'm seeing my sister in the struggle and I just can't do anything. I don't know what, and that can also be a lonely place as well. So, but you bring in this community, just the reach, just above and anything we could ask or even think or imagine.
And I need you to know that just having loved ones who care enough to try to learn is part of the healing process too. Just knowing that it mattered enough to you that you would take your time and invest that in figuring out, what do I say in this moment, or what do I not say, means the world. You can get it wrong every time, but the fact that you tried is such a powerful thing, and it adds to that person's ability to rebound and overcome. So thank you for that and for all those prayers. I will add my prayers. 60% of adults in the United States are living with at least one chronic illness. I want to reach every single person that we are called to reach. If it's one meeting, if it's ongoing, I want to reach everybody that God has called us to reach. The other side too is I want to see us grow to a place where we are actually in conversation with medical professionals in terms of them asking us, to support them and how best to serve their patients. And so that is one of my prayers as well going forward. As we get ready to close, I'm going to ask you to share either a Bible verse that encourages you or what words of encouragement you would give to someone who is living with a chronic condition and has not yet gotten plugged in with LCF. So you can share a Bible verse or encouragement for someone who's not yet plugged into LCF, or both. So Dorothea, would you like to start?
Sure. The Bible verse I would like to share is, "Thou will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, because he trusts in thee."
Yes.
And my word to those who haven't plugged in is, come on, what you waiting on?
That part.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Who else?
Mine is Jeremiah 29:11. I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you. And that's where I always go back to. So when things aren't going well, or they're not, like this ain't feeling right, God knows this didn't surprise him. This did not catch him by surprise.
Yeah.
And his plan for you is to prosper you, not to harm you. So I always rely on that to come back to that. Like, okay, breathe.
Mm-hmm.
God's got this. You're going to make it through. And like my sister said, come on. This is the place to be. This is the spot.
Amen. Amen. Alicia.
I was laughing earlier because when Stephanie started saying this, my absolute favorite scripture is Ephesians 3:20. Now unto thee who is able to do immeasurably more than we can think or imagine, according to the power that is at work within us.
Yes.
And it is because, like, I look at how the little things that we have, and he multiplies them immeasurably more than what we're constantly putting in a place where we're going. If I had known that was going to happen, like, I didn't even see that was a possibility.
Yeah.
And when you lay stuff in his hands, I just see the magnitude. And so living chronic faith in the hands of 4 women on this call that are all praying the same thing for expansion, and that there are no limits on where it's going. He's going to do immeasurably above what we can think or imagine. Now, I also believe that requires hands. So there's room on the board. Come
Amen.
on.
Amen.
Your talents and your gifts, because faith without works and
Is
works
dead.
without faith work together. So we need you. We need you. Come join us.
That's so good. And there are so many places to plug in and bring your talents. We have a newsletter that needs writers. We have productions that need actors. We need, vocalists and all types of things. So whatever it is that is in your hands to do, you are welcome here. And we embrace all of those things that God is doing in you. So Dorothea gave us a verse about peace. Steph gave us a verse about purpose and prosperity. Alicia gave us a verse about power. Come on, all the P's. And I want to share Jeremiah 32:27 is one of my absolute favorite verses. Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me? And we know the answer to that is no. But even when things seem too hard for us, he is the God of all flesh, including us, right? And when our flesh doesn't do what we want it to do, there's nothing too hard for him, even when it's too hard for us. So with that, thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation and for all the encouragement that you have offered and the insights and perspectives. Thank you for giving people kind of a snapshot of what it looks like to be part of Living Chronic Faith now and future tense. And just thank you for all of the things that you sow in and add value to this community. You are greatly appreciated and absolutely irreplaceable. And I love you to pieces.
Love you.
And thanks to everybody who watched and listened. We would love to have you part of Living Chronic Faith. Please check us out at www.livingchronicfaith.com. And as Dorothea said, come on, what you waiting for? God bless you. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you want to stay up to date on what's happening in the LCF community, or for more faith-first chronic diagnosis content, please visit our website at livingchronicfaith.com. And while you're there, consider registering for membership free of charge. Also, check us out on Instagram and YouTube at Living Chronic Faith. Be sure to follow and subscribe. Remember that I'm praying for you. Yes, you. And until next time, always expect great things. Talk to you soon.